Now let's take you through what some of the biggest stories that have made the news this week in East Africa as we bring you East Africa Roundup every Friday on Breakfast Central. We take you through some of these biggest stories making the rounds in the continent's eastern region. And as always, we have journalist Darren Bartlett joining us. Good morning, Darren. And as is the tradition this morning, we must say to you, compliments of the season.
Merry Christmas season to you guys. You're looking beautiful. I didn't think about wearing mine, but you guys are looking amazing with yours.
Well, sorry, we should have notified you to wear your own cap and come with your cap to the show.
But anyway, Darren, let's get straight into it. We've had these conversations about the DRC, about the M23 rebels, allegations, about Rwanda being a sponsor of the M23 rebels. So let's talk about it. The ongoing situation seems, to be getting seemingly worse, and the world is agreeing with the DRC that Rwanda is supporting the M23 rebels. Now, France is the latest to accuse the Kigali government. So let's get your thoughts on this. Rwanda would always deny, but is there any truth to it?
Well, one thing to be diplomatically careful, Rwanda cannot come out and say, yes, we support the M23 rebels, even when there are so many questions about the regrouping of the M23. The last time they disbanded, some of them joined the DRC army, and then another group went to Rwanda, another group came into Uganda. About 1,000 of them came to Uganda, and 700 of them about went to Rwanda. But how fast they recollect and come back and regroup and form another kind of a formidable army with sophisticated weapons that can bring down things like UN helicopters is just there's just a lot of questions about it. So France recently, even when they have good relationships together on the other side, but when it comes to specifically this conversation, France is the latest country that has come out from the West and said Rwanda is supporting the M23, and this time it was a public finger. The spokesperson of the Foreign Ministry of France, Anne Claire, came out and said that we can only achieve peace in the DRC if Rwanda, which is supporting the M23, agrees and implements the agreements of the Nairobi Convention, and also the Rwanda, which is Angola. In Angola, they agreed to those agreements in how to bring back peace to DRC. Rwanda has not welcomed this because of it still comes up and believes that France knows what the problem is in DRC. In fact, many times we've seen Rwanda accusing France for not supporting it in bringing people who supported the genocide into justice. That was like 5 years ago when they had this kind of back and forth with France. Later on, France kind of agreed, arrested some people, but the perpetrators of the genocide, and put them together. So they've always had a relationship of an off and on, and I'm not surprised that France is one of the countries that came up and pointed Rwanda to be the supporters of the M23. It is a disaster, but then Rwanda finds itself in an isolated place because already in East Africa, there's an agreement that Rwanda cannot send its troops into DRC to fight the M23. So they leave them isolated. And then the world comes out and says the Rwanda is supporting M23. We've had these accusations from even the USA. Even when Rwanda, even when the presidents were, both the presidents were in USA attending the US-African Summit, the conversation still came out, and Tshisekedi welcomed the whole support of the U.S. and accusing Rwanda for supporting the M23. It's a difficult position where Rwanda finds itself right now, and we hope that they come to the table and resolve such issues. Otherwise, diplomatically, it now looks like Rwanda is isolated in this. Whatever they can do, they will have to do it to see that there's peace, and they can themselves out.
There are several countries in the East African region. Why do they have to keep pointing fingers at Rwanda? I wonder if there's something that they know that we don't know. But let's find out if Rwanda has responded to this accusation. And would you say that the extension of the UN peacekeeping force, what would you say that this means to the citizens of the DRC?
They're actually bitter about it. The citizens of DRC are not happy about the extension of the UN Peace Force in Rwanda because they have been there for a long time, but the citizens have still been attacked by the rebel groups that are there. So they feel like they have done nothing. Now, to extend their mandate to 2024, for them, it doesn't make any sense because if the peacekeeping force has been doing its job, how did the M23 regroup? How did the 100 plus rebel groups, still attack people? And from there, it doesn't make sense to them. So they believe instead of being protected, as a matter of fact, one time when the DRC citizens were protesting against the UN forces, some of them died. So they feel like the people who are supposed to be protecting us are not doing anything or even killing our own people. But yeah, usually when there are protests, there's always a casualty. Someone is going to pay for it in any way or possible. So they are not happy. But even the timing is interesting. When you look at the issues that are happening in DRC, this is the time they extend their mandate, the peacekeeping force agreement to stay in Congo. Then the UN itself lifts a ban that DRC will now be able to purchase weapons, to protect themselves for peace and arm their defense forces. They were not able to do that previously. So it's a tricky timing kind of situation, but the citizens are not happy about it because they feel there's nothing that the UN has done for them.
Well, as I know, and I'm sure a few people know, the things that we hear with regards to international politics and in times of crisis are not always exactly the way that they seem. Stories are told, narratives are painted, and you'd eventually find out 20 years later that you were lied to all the while. And so a lot of times, personally, I always, take some of these narratives and these stories with a pinch of salt. We saw the United States use, Al-Qaeda use ISIS, the same people that they were supposed to be fighting against. They used them when they were fighting in Syria. And of course, the narrative that was told was totally different. So with a pinch of salt, Darren, I'm sure you understand what I mean. But let's move away from there and go to, of course, other stories. A UK court, of course, has determined that deporting unlawful asylum seekers to Rwanda was legal. Now, let's talk about what the bargain was and what the court really fined. Is Rwanda also capable of hosting these migrants?
Well, of course, there were conditions on how Rwanda can manage this whole situation. If you go back in January when they made this deal, Rwanda was offered about 120 million pounds to be able to settle these asylum seekers, and they wanted to give it a trial with about 1,000 asylum seekers to get to Rwanda, and that first flight was scheduled to get them in June. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side of the curtain you fall, human rights activists came out and petitioned and said, look, the reason why we have these refugees coming into UK, one is that they do not believe in the systems that they are working with home. They believe that their lives are in danger at home. It could be religious, it could be political, and all those human rights policies that specifically look at refugees. There are all reasons why they choose to come to UK. But when the court looks at their reasoning, they believe that an asylum seeker can go to any other country, but not a specific country. So in their ruling, they believe that even a third-party country can be a host of a refugee, as long as you are not in proximity with the country that you're running from. For example, if you're running from Iran, going to UK, that is quite a long distance, and the proximity does not count. So yes, you can be there. But also, if you're taken to Rwanda, you're still safe. You're not in the same proximity and the same geographical region from where you're running from. So in their wisdom, they believe that it's not illegal to deport these people to Rwanda. After all, they have been paid. The processing fee has been paid. They are going to be resettled into the communities. They are hiring translators to help them settle into the community. So it's not illegal. However, there's this whole thing of that Rwanda itself does not observe human rights policies, because they keep thinking that Kagame being in seat, being one of the longest-serving presidents of Rwanda, and they question their democracy. They question quite a lot of things about Rwanda. So they believe if Rwanda is being accused of human rights violations, that anybody who stands against Kagame goes to prison, we've seen it in the past 2 years, but of course for different reasons he comes out and defends himself that that's not the case. If again Rwanda is being accused for supporting M23, so I believe you're sending them to a country that is as violent as that they are from.
Exactly.
That is kind of, so it's kind of that debate. But the Rwandan government comes out and says, Rwanda is a peaceful country. You've not had bombings. You've not had wars within the country of Rwanda. We're developing at a high speed. It's one of the most innovating countries in Africa, or fastest growing hub in Africa. So the place is suitable for refugees to come in. But the British government, I saw Sunka, the British Prime Minister, saying that this has been welcomed by the majority of the British people. Who are they? Probably the governments who believed that, you know what, we've been trying to decongest and make things hard for asylum seekers to come to UK. So taking them to another country is one of those that they would welcome. Whereas some citizens feel like they're wasting their tax money into just sending people away who have come for help. So it always depends on what side you're looking at. If it's government, they feel like we have to protect the interest of the people of Britain. When it comes to the people, the normal people, they feel like we have to play a humanity role in hosting these people. So they will definitely be repatriated or sent back to or deported to Rwanda. The question is, will they settle into Rwanda?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these questions that need to be answered. You know, sadly, Paul Kagame is getting into the news for not the best reasons. But we would love to have, more of these conversations. I really want to talk about, more France's interest in all of this. Darren Bartlett, thank you so much for your time. And we'll be seeing you again.
Merry Christmas to you guys.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. All right.
It's interesting.